In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the Seasonal Calving Report. This is really useful for analysing fertility data in block calving herds. The report can be found under Advanced Reports, Fertility, and Seasonal Calving Report down here. The first thing you see when you open the report is the calving block planner. This shows all of the key dates that are used for calculating the breeding seasons. The breeding seasons are split into cows and heifers, and they're defined by the PSM, or planned start of mating, the PSC, the planned start of calving, and the PEM, the planned end of mating. By default, the planned end of mating occurs 12 weeks after the planned start of mating, in order that we can analyse 4 21-day blocks in fertility analysis. All of these dates are calculated by TotalVet automatically under the calculated columns. If you wish to change these dates, here you can do that manually by double-clicking in the user-defined column. So I can change the planned start of mating, the planned start of calving, or the planned end of mating. The block ID is defined by the date of the midpoint of the calving block. Again, this can be changed by double-clicking in this column. Once you're happy with all of the dates and the name of the block, you can choose the blocks that you want to compare. In this case, we're going to compare the autumn 2021 calving block for cows against the autumn 2020 calving block also for cows. We've done this by selecting tick marks in the last column over here. The first tab shows the fertility efficiency for block calving herds. Periods of time are divided into 21-day windows along the x-axis, and in each 21-day period, we plot the number of cows that are eligible to be served, the number that are actually served, and those that actually result in a pregnancy. By default, any cow who is eligible at any point during the service block is eligible from day 0, even if she is currently pregnant or currently within what we would term a voluntary waiting period. This is a convention for analysis of block calving data. Blue and green lines then plot the rolling average submission rate and the rolling average pregnancy rate during the breeding season. This can be really useful if you've got a farm where the submission rate is actually changing over the course of the breeding season, and that might suggest that there's problems with heat detection or heat expression at different times of the season. The next chart is the service curve. This is a survival curve plotting the proportion of the herd that has been served and the proportion of the herd that's been diagnosed pregnant by days from the start of the breeding season. It's possible to hide series by clicking on them at the top of the chart. And now we're just going to focus on the cumulative proportion of the herd that has been served from the start of the block. We can see that in 2021, we got off to a better start. More of the herd was served more quickly, though by the end of the breeding window, a very similar proportion of cows have been served, between 92 and 93%. Hovering over the graph will give you these figures. In this case, we can see that between 8 and 10% of the herd were never served during a breeding window. So this is a useful proxy for the proportion of the herd that were culled for non-fertility reasons. Now we're going to bring up the rolling pregnancy rate on this farm, and we can see that the pregnancy rate is fairly similar over the last 2 years, last 2 seasons. However, in 2021, pregnancy rate was about 1% higher than it was in 2020. The next tab plots the inverse. So this plots a survival curve of the proportion of the herd that have calved by days from the planned start of calving. At the point of analysis in 2021, we've only had about 20% of the herd have calved, and that's why we can't see any cows that have calved after about day 35, 36. In 2020, approximately 67% of the herd calved by 85 days into the calving window. The next tab in this report is the fertility momentum graph. This plots the distribution in calving intervals of all cows in the herd that calved in the previous block and have since recalved in the current block. For a true block calving herd, we want the fertility momentum to be fairly normally distributed, or actually a little bit left skewed. This means that cows are calving slightly earlier in the following season than they did in the previous season. So what we see in a herd that has a left skewed calving interval fertility momentum is that their calving block should shrink in the following season. If you've got a herd where a lot of the herd are calving beyond 365 days of calving interval, that we term this as a right skew, this suggests that the calving period is going to be extended in the following year. Lastly, we have a column for the proportion of the herd that have calved out of block, shown by the red group here, or the proportion of the herd that actually fails to conceive altogether, so that they don't ever recalve. As in other TotalVet reports, double-clicking on the bars will bring up a list of the cows contributing. If we double-click on the red series, we can see a list of the 5 cows that calved out of block. Holding Shift and double-clicking brings up a list of all of the cows that contribute to that stack. So we can see a list of a combination of the cows that calved out of block, as well as the ones that failed to calve. It may also be useful to focus on the cows that are calving with a very short calving interval. These cows are likely to calve early on in the next calving season and would be the ideal cows to breed replacements from for the following year. So that was a brief summary of the new Seasonal Calving Report, which is available in TotalVet. I hope you find it useful for analysing fertility data in your block calving herds.